Tehillim Perek. Dalet. It's called a Tchelas. Okay. I haven't been following what's the latest in the Tchelas world, but
It's very popular these days.
I'm sure they have. They keep coming out with they had 4 times where they said, now we mamish have it. This last one was not really it. So this is stuck it. You know who found it first? The Redzina. The Redzina was the Ishbitzer's son. So Rebbe, he was a chemist. He went to search for
He was a chemist.
He was a Rebbe and a chemist. He went to search for the Tchelas. Then after that, I think Rabbi Herzog, Rabbi Isaac Halevi Herzog, I think he also said that he found the Tchelas. And then since then, Yeshiva University, they discovered their research. Yeah. Well, whatever people there. Okay. Well, Hatchelas Eina Makevas Esalaban. The Mishnah says that the Tchelas, having the Tchelas is not Ma'akev, the white. You have 2 parts to the tzitzis. The way Rashi and Tosfos here put it is that there's 2 strings of Tchelas and 2 strings of white.
2 corners.
No, 2 strings on each corner.
Strings?
2 strings on each. Let's say you have 4 strings. Okay.
Bent in half.
So
that's what you're saying?
I don't know how it works. Yeah. Let's say you have 2 strings bent. Let's say you have 4 strings that are bent in half. So 2 of them would be tchelas and 2 of them would be white. That's how Rashi says. So when it says tchelas eina makevas esalavan, Rashi learns that let's say you made all 4 white, or you made all 4 blue. You're still yetzer. Tosfos asks on Rashi. He says, I don't know why he's doing that. He says tchelas eina makevas esalavan means you have 2 strings, and you didn't put in the other ones. Why are you saying that you switch them for white ones? Where do you get that from? Tchelas eina makevas esalavan. If you divide it in half, you have 2 strings. 2 strings each. One is yaitza without the other. Okay. Tefillah shel yad eina makevas shel reish. Are you comfortable?
Huh? Yeah, I'm good. Let's do this over here. Are we expecting Mirz Hashem? I'll have some more. Right.
Tefillah shel yad eina makevas shel reish. V'shel reish eina makevas shel yad. You yaitza each one without the other one. The shel yad and the shel reish. We learned, of course. Why do you take off the shel reish before the shel yad? Kol zman she'ein bein einecha yushtayim v'hayu, right? It says in the pasuk they shall be between your eyes. And that taught us that you're supposed to have the shel yad on before you have the shel reish and also afterwards. But nevertheless, if you only have one, you're still yet to the mitzvah. The Gemara asks, Leima masnisin d'leike Rabbi. Shall we say that the Mishnah does not agree with Rabbi? Or it doesn't like it when it doesn't fit. It tries its hardest to make that the Mishnah should be unanimous. The Tanya was taught in the Braisa. Uri'isa Maisai. And you will see it. Malami, this teaches. Shemakvin Zazeh. When it says you will see it, it means that you need to see both of them. Put them both in the same category. Both the white and the blue and the tchelas. Divri Rabbi, that's the words of Rabbi. Chum say it doesn't. It's not ma'akev. One is good without the other. The Gemara asks, my time of the Rabbi, what's the reason for Rabbi just read? Somebody say it's not enough. See it, I don't know what it's referring to. Just the ksiv, it says in the pasuk, hakana. The pasuk says that you will put on the tzitzis of the corner. The corner is hakana. You will put on the tzitzis of the corner a thread of blue wool, of tchelas. When it says tzitzis of the corner, it means of the same type of the corner. Min kanaf. It means it needs to be white. Why? Because there's an assumption here that the talus was made out of linen, and linen is naturally white. So if it's the type of the corner, that means you need to have two strings that are white, and the other strings that are tchelas. And Torah says you should see it. You need to have both of them as one. You need the kanaf and you need the psil tchelas. The tzitzis hakanaf, really. The tzitzis that are the same type as the corner. Rabbanan when the Rabbanan say, it says kol chad l'chudei mashma. You will see it. It means each one could be independent as well. So lemad like a Rabbi. If that's the case, the Rabbi holds that it's ma'akiv, that you need one, that you need both of them in order to be yotze the mitzvah. So our mission is very clear that
right.
you don't need.
Right.
So
they're mutually exclusive. He said that you need. Rabbi says they need to be
both together.
Both together. In other words, not exclusive. I'm sorry. They need to be the blue and white need to be together.
They're dependent on each other.
And our Mishnah says that they're not interdependent.
Right. So Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rav. Rav Yehuda in the name of Rav says Afilu Temer Rabbi. This is what the Gemara likes to do. It likes to say that if we work on this, we're able to figure out how to get the Mishnah to be according to Rebbe's opinion, even though at face value it's exactly the opposite. We're starting over. This is a brand new book. So it's the first, we're on page 38. A. Afilu Temer Rebbe, you could even say it's Rebbe. Nitzracha ela lekadim. Actually, the change in the girsa here is lahaktim. But we're talking about that when our Mishnah says that the tchelas does not affect the validity of the white, and the white doesn't affect the validity of the tchelas, and the tzitzis, the blue and the white threads, that if you have one without the other, you still fulfill the mitzvah. Doesn't really mean if you have one without the other. Really, the Mishnah holds that you need to have both of them. So does it say one without? It says no. What it means is if you put it in the wrong order. If you put in, well, which one's supposed to be first? Let's see. The Tanya was taught in a brisa. Mitzvah lahaktim lavan l'tchelas. There's a mitzvah to put in the white thread into the tzitzis, into the hole of the tzitzis first. But if you put the blue one in first, you're still yotze. Ela shechisa mitzvah, but you're lacking in a mitzvah. The Gemara asks, the brisa can't get away with this. Just saying you're lacking in a mitzvah. The Gemara has to verify what are you talking about, which mitzvah that is. My chisa mitzvah. What does it mean you're lacking in a mitzvah? Again, he's putting in the tchelas before the lavan. Eily mechisa mitzvah the lavan. If we say that the lavan is possible now, the kiyam mitzvah the tchelas, and you're fulfilling the mitzvah of tchelas. Why? Because you put the tchelas in first, and the lavan you put in too late, doesn't help anymore. The Rebbe why are you saying you're lacking a mitzvah? According to Rebbe, you didn't resolve anything now. We're trying to make the Mishnah fit with Rebbe. If you put it in the wrong order, and now the lavan doesn't count, the white, you put it in too late. There's no lavan. So according to Rebbe, you have no mitzvah here. You need both. Rebbe holds that you need the tchelas and the lavan together to be yotze the mitzvah. Right. Taisus asks.
So basically, we still have a question on Rebbe against the Mishnah.
Well, we have a theory of what the Mishnah, how the Mishnah could fit with Rebbe, that it has to do with putting it in
chronologically
in the right order. The problem is that we just quoted a brisa that we're unclear of what it means.
Right.
Taisus asks over here. We just said that you're going to fulfill the mitzvah of tchelas, but you won't fulfill the mitzvah of the white because you're putting it in too late. Taisus says, how do you know that that's the pshat? Maybe it's exactly the opposite. Maybe you're going to fulfill the mitzvah of the white, and the tchelas you put in too early. That's Taisus.
This whole, I don't know what I'm trying to say here. This whole rebuttal sounds like a dray.
Yeah.
So it's just pretty clear. You need to have one without the other. So how does he go from there to say, doesn't really mean you need one with the other? You
Right.
put them in the right order.
You're right.
The reality is when
Yeah.
you make scissors, you take 4 strings, you wrap them up, and you stick them in. They're not going to put in one at a time. They get 4 strings.
Uh-huh.
No one sits and puts them in one at a time.
Sounds like you're adding one on afterwards. You're
Yeah.
adding on afterwards. That's what it sounds like.
With tchelas, does it matter when you? So this is saying that it matters when you put in tchelas.
That the tchelas has to go in afterwards.
Oh, so even with the tzitzis nowadays, that they're not even sure if it's the real tchelas, and if it would be.
On the assumption that it's the real tchelas, they would have to do it, whatever the order, the way it's done here. We mentioned that the tchelas is 2 strings. We also mentioned that there's a machlekes Rashi and Tosfos here. If you don't have the 2 strings of the blue, how many strings of the white do you have? Do you do an extra 2 strings of white to replace the blue, or is there no such thing? There's 2 of white, 2 of blue. You don't have the blue, so you only have 2 strings. That's what we mentioned. Tosfos comments that. Where'd Rashi get those other 2 strings from? Okay. So we're trying to explain the Mishnah, the Brisa, and ultimately go back to the Mishnah according to Rabbi. Rav Yidam Rav Shechisar mitzvah v'asa mitzvah. You did the mitzvah. You did the mitzvah of the white. The only thing is you're missing another mitzvah. My chisar mitzvah. What mitzvah are you missing? Are you lacking? Le'avad mitzvah min amuvcha. You didn't do the extra special mitzvah of putting it in the right order.
Yeah, but that doesn't. That's that. You're
But
not
you still
missing a
yet-
mitzvah.
right.
You're missing.
You missed it's sort of like you davened shachar after this man tefillah, you know.
Right.
You're still yaitz. It's just you missed tefillah bismana or something. So you missed the order of the way it's supposed to be. So Avram Nassan, here's your question getting stronger. What did we explain? That the tcheles is not ma'akiv the lavan. That means if you put the tcheles in first and you put the lavan in later, so it's still kosher. That's what we're explaining according to Rabbi.
That's the bright.
But how do you do? Yeah, and we're explaining, going back in the Mishnah, we're explaining. But how are you going to explain v'halavan eina ma'akiv esat tcheles? There is no order that's incorrect when you do that. That is the correct order, right? So you can't do this both ways. Where it says "Hateinach lavan deina ma'akiv esat tcheles," okay, we can explain it that the white is not ma'akiv the tcheles. I guess you put the tcheles in first. We're saying it the other way. But tcheles deina ma'akiv esat lavan mahi. So how does it work the other way? That the tcheles is not ma'akiv the lavan. That if you don't have the tcheles in first, the lavan is still kosher. What do you mean? That's the order.
Wait, that's white, blue.
White and then blue.
Right.
So why are you saying that it's not ma'akiv if you do it that way? That's the way you're supposed to do it.
Yeah.
So the Shittim Mekabetzes takes out the following lines. It goes straight to Itmanami. Itmanami, there's a statement also, it's 2 lines down. There's also a statement that tries to explain the Mishnah this way as well and has the same question. It goes like this. Amalei Levi l'Shmuel. Levi was a student of Rabbi. And Shmuel was in the days of the students of Rabbi. And Levi says to Shmuel, Aryech. Aryech means king. What he means to say.
So Shmuel was across, he was
first generation.
On Amoraim.
Yeah, he was first generation Amira. So the reason why he's called Aryech, Shmuel is called Aryech, because the halacha is like Shmuel when it comes to monetary matters. Just like the government has control, so Shmuel also had control. The halacha was like him. Let me see if there's another. Aryech also means a lion. And the lion is the king of the animals. Reicha. is the Aramaic for king. So Aryech is king, or it's Aryech could either mean a lion or it could mean king. Either way, it means king. A lion is the king. In the Torah, one of the 4 kings and the 5 kings, one of them his name was Aryech. Very interesting. So Levi tells to Shmuel, Aryech, like king, like Teise Bakarach, don't sit on your legs, Adam Efarshasli, Laha Milsa. They must have sat in Indian style, or I don't know what. Why else would he say don't sit on your legs? Maybe it means just don't get off your feet and don't sit down until you explain this to me. What is the meaning of this? That the tchelis is not ma'akiv, doesn't stop being yetzer the lavan, the white threads, and the lavan doesn't stop from being yetzer the blue threads. What does it mean? The only reason why it's necessary to say this is we're talking about a linen garment, a sudden, that you put tzitzis in it. The mitzvah lavan bereisha. The mitzvah is really to put in the white ones first, like we said. My time. What's the reason? Because it says that you will put on the tzitzis hakanaf psil tchelas. You will put onto the threads of the corner, the blue thread. What is the threads of the corner? Minakanaf. The threads needs to be the same as the corner. What's the corner? It's white because he made it out of linen. Linen is naturally white. Biaktim tchelas lavan, but nevertheless, if you put the blue ones in before the white ones, less lanba, there's no problem. That's what it means. So he asks him back, Teinach lavan. This works out well that the white eina ma'akev es tchelas, that it's not ma'akev the tchelas going in first, but tchelas the eina ma'akev es lavan mai. What's the problem if the white goes in first? That's the way you're supposed to do it. Now we go back and we quote what was said before. Amar le Rami bar Chama. Can't be like Rami bar Chama was later. Amar Rami bar Chama. They take this out. Rami bar Chama is a son-in-law of Chisda. He couldn't have spoken to Shmuel in this conversation. I mean, maybe as a child, but so Amar Rami bar Chama le nitzrucha el talis shit kula tchelas. It's necessary to say this if you have a talis that's entirely blue.
You hear this? The question by Kara.
It's made out of the blue wool. Then, so what's the min kanaf? You have to. It says you have to do the one like blue. The corner first.
Yeah.
So the mitzvah laktu mitchelas bereisha. Then you'll have to put in the tchelas first. Kairach was right. No, I'm kidding. But there would be a difference, according to this, a slight difference, that you put the blue one in first. The hakanaf min kanaf. That's the type of the corner. And then afterwards, you would have to add the other type. Well, what does it mean to add the other type afterwards? Psil tchelas, it says you add afterwards. So what it would be, you need 4 threads of, it sounds like you would need 4 threads of blue wool.
Yeah.
It's a little strange. For whatever reason, he's saying that you would have to put in the blue threads first. Okay. But if you put the white threads in first, it's not a problem. Amar Rava contests this. Rava and Rami bar Chama are contemporaries, and they were friends. They were. This is the story which Rav Chisda had his daughter on his lap, and he said, "Which one of them would you like to marry?" Rava and Rami bar Chama were there. She said, "Both of them." So Rava says, "I'll go second because the first one dies." That was the understanding. She's going to marry both of them, so he says, "I'll go second."
Wow, that's what Rava said.
Yeah.
So he married her second after Rami bar Chama.
It happened that way?
Yeah.
Wow. Did they both have like Talmidim? Like I'm sure they probably both had Amoraim come after them, right? I'm sure out of both marriages, probably. I'm sure the
we
children
we know the students of we know the children of Rava. And we have sayings from Rava's children, definitely from his students. And I don't know Rami Bar Chama. And I think he had another daughter that married Baruch for Bar Chama, so maybe it was Rava Bar Chama. Anyway, they're contemporaries. Rava contests what Rami Bar Chama just said, that if a talis is blue, that you would need to put in the blue first. He says, Midi Tzivaka Garim, but the color over here tells me which one I'm going to put in first. Why should the color change anything? What he means to say, according to Rashi, is that the pasuk is telling you the way it's normally done. Because one guy made a talis blue, it's going to change all the halachas over here. That's not how it works. The way it works is that the white goes in first, and then you put the blue in. It doesn't change just because someone has a blue talis. That doesn't change the order. Elama Rava, so Rava goes back and changes this.
But even the order doesn't disqualify the mitzvah, just
Right.
mitzvah in order.
Right. And that's what would be the
So-
pshat in this Mishnah.
Yeah, but it's hard
About
to
Chela
argue.
saying about Keves Asalav, and the way you put it in doesn't matter.
It's
See,
hard to argue that because this is not talking about mitzvah and a This is talking about practical mitzvah.
uh-huh. If you're going to do this, if you're going to learn it like this, what's going to be the next case? I didn't get up to it in the Gemara, but what's going to be the next case? The Tefillin Shal Yad is not Makav Tzeresh. What does it mean? That if you put it on in the wrong order?
Right.
That's not what it sounds like. Well, that's not what the first part sounds like either. There's a big question. Does the Gemara, when it goes through these things, does it expect that it's going to conclude with like, okay, so therefore, because we have this reinterpretation, now we're going to have the halacha in this way? Or is it just trying to get it to fit so that Rabbi will be satisfied as well, that it could be explained according to Rabbi, but it doesn't mean that that's what it has to be? That's like the accept. As you want it to be able to be explained like that, not that it's the halachic interpretation of it. That's because everything here is being memorized, right? The Mishnayos were all memorized. There's a machlekes actually, Rashi and the Rambam, if the Mishnayos were written in the time of the Gemara or if they were memorized.
So again, there was Menachos between who?
Rashi and the Rambam.
What they argue about?
If Rabbi wrote the Mishnayos or edited the Mishnayos. Edited would mean that he didn't write it; it was still being memorized, and it has to do with two versions of the manuscript of Reb Shri Gaon. Reb Shri Gaon wrote the history of the Gemara. The Geras Reb Shri Gaon, the letter, he wrote it to the people in Kirwan. They asked him, "Tell us, Master, how was the Gemara written?" You know, they have like a bunch of questions here, and
Kirwan, you said?
Kirwan was, I think, in North Africa. They wrote to the Gaon, and he responds. And there's two manuscripts that we have. One manuscript is the Spanish one, and one is the French one. And the French one says that Rabbi edited the Mishnayos, and the Spanish one says that Rabbi wrote the Mishnayos. If Rabbi edited, then Rav Ashi was the one that wrote the Gemara and the Mishnayos.
Rav Ashi would have written
The Mishnayos as well. You know, it's published. I mean, when I say written, I mean published. Was it published in a written form? So whatever the case is, it's being memorized. So they want it, if it's being memorized, they want it to fit with every opinion. You can't tell people a bunch of opinions to memorize. Well, for Rebbe we have a different Mishnah. For this one we have a different Mishnah. It's not going to work like that. You want to have one poem, and then the interpretation of it could be like this or like that. Okay, enough speculation. Elama Rava, so Rava has a new pshat. Lay nitzrecha, what are we dealing with here in our Mishnah? Is Ella legardumin. Gardumin, remember we had that?
No.
We had that, the gardumin of, we had it before, a few days ago, 7 years ago. We had it, it means the stubs of the tefillin. Remember we had the gardumin of the tefillin in the back, that if it stubs. Okay, so anyway, we're talking about that it broke off. The tzitzis broke off. The threads of the white broke off, or the threads of the tcheles broke off. And what the halacha would be is that the igardim tcheles v'koi lavan, because let's say the threads of the blue wool snapped, and you're left only with the white ones. The igardim lavan v'koi tcheles, or the threads of the white ones snapped, and you're left with only the blue ones. Last lamba, it's still kosher, even though it's very small, the stubs that are remaining. The Amri b'nei Reb Chia, the children of Reb Chia said, Reb Chia was very important in the last generation of Tanoim. He edited the Baises. The Tosefta was done by Reb Chia and Rabbi. So his sons say that Gardume Tcheles Ksherin, that the stubs of the Tcheles is still kosher, but Gardume Ezev Ksherin, in the stubs of the grass, this was the grass that was used in the red heifer, I believe. Yeah. That would be used to sprinkle on someone that was impure. And the kamashir gadumin. But how big is the stub? So Amar Bar Hamduri, Amar Shmuel. I haven't seen Bar Hamduri before, but I don't know all of the sages. Could be he's mentioned. But here, you see he's mentioned, yeah. So Bar Hamduri says in the name of Shmuel, Kedela Anvan, that enough to make a bow. So for example, this was tiny. Let's say this was tiny. It would be very hard for me to get a bow out of it. To get a bow means that you have to be able to pull it through. One bow is a slip knot. What it's called, a slip knot? That's you. If I can pull this through here, so that's a bow.
Wow.
So my tzitzis, you could do it much smaller. That's the smallest we could get it would be, the thicker it is, the harder it is, as the Gemara is going to say. But the thinner it is here. So this is how big tzitzis need to be. Originally, they should be, 2/3 longer than the. You're supposed to have 1/3 of the knots and wraps around, and 2/3 hanging down. That's what's it called? Fee? Is that called fee? 2/3, 1/3. It was one of the Greek rules of beauty. What's beauty? There's the rules of beauty. You have the face is divided into thirds, like the thirds, and that was supposed to be. They show this on the Parthenon and all of the different things. That the way they made it was all with this rule. Phi, it's called. Mm-hmm. There's a mathematical formula to make it to make things beautiful. Yeah, yeah. There's actually PHI, I think. So the tzitzis has that formula of you have 1/3 is the and then 2/3 the rest is that's called noi tzitzis. That's the beauty of it. And
so 1/3 are the knots,
am I correct?
2/3 is are the hanging.
Yeah, but if it snaps, so how much left is still kosher? So if you can turn it into a bow, so that's a niva is one bow, one side of a bow.
So can I ask you a question? Just we're talking. So let's just say you have you have tzitzis, and you have two tzitzis fall off.
Snap.
Two tzitzis snap, but you have enough to make a bow for both of them.
Yeah, it's kosher. Yeah.
As long as
Less than a bow.
Less than a bow.
Would be puzzle.
If there's less than a bow on both of them,
That's the barometer.
then that would be a problem if it's on different sides. So when you make tzitzis, you have two sides, and if it's on different sides, then it's possible that it's the same strand that came out. If it's both on the same side, you see, because when you look at the knot,
Yeah.
you see that one side.
Well, that's why if one
You
falls
have to
off,
divide
it's
it.
only half. So
It's
there's
only
no
half.
problem.
But if you have two,
But if there's two, that could be
and they're on
one full
different
one.
sides of the knot, then it could be a full one. That's a problem.
I always thought that it was that you can have one fall off as long as it's just a little bit past the knot, not even a bow. Or I mean, 'cause I remember I
Yeah,
had
well,
the same-
that would be correct.
Right.
But if it is the size of a bow, then it's considered like it's still there. So even if two fall off, or maybe all of them fall off, if it's still past the bow, if it's still a bow size. Iboilu. It's a shaila here. It means a question from the yeshiva. Kedei la'anvan, when it says to make it enough to make it into a bow, that's considered the stubs that are kosher. La'anvan kula bahadadi.
So are we moving on now? We're good with the mission?
Well, now what we're saying is that the tcheles, if it stubs, it's still kosher, and the lavan is still kosher if the lavan is stubs. Each one is still going to be kosher with the other one being stubs, as long as it's this size. But you still need both, and that would fit with Rabbi, because Rabbi said that you need both.
Wait, so wait 1 second. So so now it fits with Rabbi.
Yeah, it's a new
Rabbi
shot.
Rabbi says you need both, right? He says they're not okay.
Yeah, it again, you're not going to like it, because it sounds like a
It's-
tcheles and a makvas alavan means you don't have the tcheles, but you have the what? And we're saying no, you have the tcheles. It's just not very long. It's the size that's b'diavad kosher.
So, but it wouldn't have a problem. But we still have our Mishnah. There's no problem with the Mishnah.
Right. Rabbi
Right, so
would
no
fit with the
problem
Mishnah,
with-
because Rabbi holds you need both, and you taka have both. It's just the stub.
So does the Gemara ever like take his
Very
word for his word, or like I would not take any judgment until I heard,
At a certain point, yeah. It says elam machvarta. It makes more sense. Machvarta means it's wider. It's clearer to do it the other way. Sometimes it doesn't.
So according to this definition, how do we learn the Chachamim in the Bais that it says Ein Menachem? We spent our whole time trying.
Yeah. We have no problem with the Chachamim arguing with Rabbi.
So the Bais
the
is
Bais said clearly,
bifurcated.
yeah.
When in the Brisa, when Rebbe says Ma'akvin, he's talking about this. But in the same Brisa where the Chachamim were debating Rebbe and they say Ein Ma'akvin, they were talking about this.
Yeah.
They weren't
Yeah.
talking.
When there's a clear
there
debate,
was a communication problem between the Chachamim and Rebbe.
No, the Chachamim and Rabbi argue clearly, right? They say, each one says his opinion.
Really not. They don't argue. one
No,
was talking
in the Mishnah,
about-
no, that's in the Mishnah, which is anonymous. The Mishnah is anonymous. We're going to have an anonymous Mishnah that doesn't go according to Rabbi. So that's a little concern. It doesn't like anonymous Mishnah not to go like Rabbi or like Reb Meir. Reb Meir is
Is there something that's
officially
like
the
saying or
anonymous
something
Mishnah.
the Stam Mishnah like
Stam Mishnah is Reb Meir.
Stam Mishnah is not Reb.
Stam Mishnah.
Stam
Rabbi made the Mishnah. Rabbi could choose are we going to put a name in this Mishnah, or are we going to call it anonymous?